This is Kim Smith with Adventures in Coaching coming to you live this afternoon. It's great to have you here with me today, and I so appreciate your time. And this week, I'm going to talk about making decisions, especially making tough decisions, and how we can make that process a little bit easier. And I'm going to start out just by telling you a little story about what happened to me this week. I had a really, really hard decision to make, and it totally tugged on my heartstrings. And emotionally, I just loved the idea, and I really wanted it to happen. And I was sort of like letting that override my rational thought processes. And, you know, it was also the fact that sort of all the pieces had fallen into place super easily, which to me sometimes means like the doors are opening and therefore I should walk through. But I also, have to remember that I am a very emotional decision maker, and I think a lot of people are. We get our hearts tied up in sort of like the outcome without really thinking about the big picture. And about 3 days before the final decision had to be made, I started having, that little small voice talk to me, saying like, "Hey, Kim, what if this happens?" or "What if that happens?" And I was like, nah, I was just kind of overriding it and turning a lot of, as I like to say, red flags white, sort of just like clearing the path without really thinking through the consequences of this decision. And um, like I said, a couple days, 3 days before this decision had to be made, I kept getting these little feelings and gut checks and little anxieties that were telling me I need to look at this a little bit further. So thank goodness I've had a lot of practice doing this. I know that I'm an emotional decision maker, so I've had to train myself around this, and that's really what I wanted to talk to you guys about, because a lot of times our hearts can really override our logical thought processes, our logical mind. And, that urge to do something sort of impulsively can often just like override all of those other, thoughts of like, hey, is this really a good thing for me? So, and I had to remind myself, like, hey, this is what I work with people on all the time. Making big decisions is a very common problem, and we all struggle with it. Should we or should we not do something? And having a process there to help us work through those decisions is key. And I know that it's helped so many people in it. And so today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that process that I go through and that I went through before finally changing my mind on this decision that I had made for myself that came from a very emotional place. So anyways, and if you stay to the very end, I will tell you what that decision was. So thankfully, like I said, I have a process. So some of the questions that I like to ask and have you ask yourself is, does this decision need to happen now? And, if so, what is the urgency around that? And that can be really important, because often, like even with small decisions, you may get an opportunity, when you're shopping or you see something that you really love, and instantly you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to buy that. It's on sale. I definitely and need it. And then I think, well, wait, do I really need that? And if it's something that I really do love, can I put it off for a couple of days before I make that decision, so I can give myself a little bit of a pause? And that is another big piece about making decisions, is that giving yourself some time to pause and think about it versus just, reacting impulsively. So the other thing I like to have people ask themselves is like, are you reacting to the idea of something versus the reality of the situation? So, is it something that, sounds really better than it is, and why? And then also asking yourself, like, how will it affect you, your family, your business, your lifestyle? Those are really important questions to ask, especially if it's a really big decision. So, um, and then really looking at the outcomes, whether they're good or bad, and weighing those side by side. And like I say to a lot of people, use a pros and cons list. Even though that sounds so, like something your mother would have told you, it works. Trust me, it works. Having the pros and cons up side by side so that you can really measure them is super important. And for me in this big decision, I had the pros and cons list. I've got it over here. I mean, it's even just like a little bit of a pink pad of paper. And I, one of these little sticky notes, but I had it here and I kind of kept looking back at it every day and thinking like, at first the cons were, they're definitely stronger than the pros were, but yet my emotional mind was really just kind of overriding those. But having this here for me to look back at every day, I was like, oh yeah, there it is again. There it is again. Let me take a step back. I really do need to think about this. And and like with the cons come some of those doubts. Like those doubts were created from the cons list. I just hadn't had it, clearly written out. So really take a look at that. And what are those doubts and fears that are coming up, and maybe what is underneath any fears. And a lot of times we talk about our fears being our gremlins, our inner critic, that keep us from really living fully into who we are. But fears are also there to help us discover, like maybe there is something wrong here with a situation. So I think it's good to take a look at a fear from a lot of different angles, and often they help us make wise decisions, and they're there for a reason. So don't underestimate looking at your fears and figuring out really what's underneath either a doubt or those fears that are coming up. So and I talked about this before, but really allowing yourself, like once you have done some of these steps, to just sort of let it marinate in your head and let it pause. Maybe it's maybe you have to make a really quick decision, but hopefully you can give yourself permission to have at least a good night's sleep on something. Um, I just know that like when I wake up from having a lot of stress around a situation, I kind of put it up to the universe, sleep on it, and in the morning, oftentimes I have an answer, or even in the middle of the night, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, okay, I got it. I'm okay. And it's amazing what a good night's sleep could do for you. And if you can give yourself a couple days, even better. So, there's no limit to that pause, of course, but making sure that you build something into a decision, I think is really, really critical. And I've seen how well it can work for so many others as well as myself. So, and then, finally, thinking about who can I reach out to talk to about a decision, because often when we are talking in our head, I mean, we're thinking a decision through in our head only. It just stays in our head and it doesn't ever really, see the day of light. And it's important to verbalize what's going on with a friend, with a confidant, with somebody that you trust. Maybe it's somebody that thinks in a very different way than you do. Like for me, for example, my partner is a very logical thinker, and I tend to be much more of a emotional, creative thinker. And a lot of times I'll be like, I just don't know how to look at this from another angle. And he'll be there saying, well, hey, have you thought of it this way? Or why don't you take a step back and look at it another way, Kim? And I mean, it's amazing what happens when, you have somebody to run, your ideas or your thoughts or your emotions up the flagpole with, and look at, what are the different angles? What are the potential, alternative solutions to this decision? And what are the potential, consequences if you go through with it? And can you live with those? Again, like I said before. So, and then the thought of, making that decision, sometimes it can be agonizing once you get to that decision-making place. But then once you do, you may not be at 100%. You may not be like, okay, I'm 100%, I'm going this direction. But at some point you will have to make a decision and kind of live with that. And I had a mentor for many years that said to me over and over, make a decision and make it right. And that has always stuck with me as, it was one of those aha moments. It's like, yeah, maybe I'm never going to be 100% because I just see things from so many different angles. It's hard for me to just be like, okay, this is it. But when you commit to that idea of making a decision and making it right, it just means that you kind of like let all of that crazy thinking and thinking of the other options and the other ways of, how this might turn out. You're allowing it just to kind of fall to the wayside and committing to your decision and just saying, hey, this is the right decision. Yes, there may be some other things I'm thinking about, but I'm not gonna let that influence this decision any longer. So that is, I mean, just a huge sort of relief that you can, give yourself once you've made that decision, so that you can kind of put it to bed and move forward with your life and like have it stop bothering you so much. So anyways, if you are struggling with a big decision, and especially if your emotions are running high like they do for many of us, please give these strategies a try, and let me know. I would love to hear from you if there's something that you're struggling with that you'd like to run up the flagpole, or if this resonated with you in any way. Please reach out to me and let me know. I am always available on Facebook, Instant Messenger, or in the comments section, or you can go to my website, adventuresincoaching.com. And so now you have stayed to the very end, and you will hear what my decision was about. I was thinking about adopting another dog, a puppy, and he just happens to be, he would have been a very large dog, and potentially could cause problems in a lot of different ways for us, given where we live and the type of neighborhood that we have, and that we don't have a fence and this sort of thing. So as much as I wanted to think about adopting this sweet guy, we just decided that it really wasn't going to be the right fit for so many levels. So, as I said, it's hard to sometimes follow the logic over your heart, but that's what this process can help you with. So thanks for sticking with me and listening to my story, and I will talk to you very soon. And with that, have a fantastic rest of your day. Thanks.